Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to Munster versus Post-match reaction to Saracens versus Munster. Sorry, it is 4 o'clock in the morning here in New Zealand, and it was an early one. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for predictions and opinion. So, the first half of this game was very much a box kicking duel between the two sides, and which meant that we just scoring in threes in that first half. Interesting enough, we even had a drop goal attempt in that first half, which we saw missed. So very different to a lot of rugby we've seen recently, where teams are really trying, really once they get that momentum on the front foot, they think they can get fives rather than threes. Hence, we saw that drop goal. Lots of box kicks, and Saracens were winning that aerial battle. Haley, Sweetenham, both perhaps not at their best. Obviously, Sweetenham in for Earls, who was missing in this game, and I think Sweetenham got targeted quite a lot from Saracens, who were competing obviously at these box kicks. It's the whole point of that style of play. A lot of the interesting stuff happening at the breakdown. Gar says, let's quite a bit go, and we saw that today. Sometimes you saw players who you thought, he's perhaps got his elbows on the ground or whatever, that would get away with it the next time. It wouldn't, and that wasn't towards either of the sides. It's just that's how he referees it. If you're not blatantly off your feet, then he lets you have a good go at that ball. Long rucks, it's one of those things that's been talked about recently, altered how the two sides did it. Generally, Munster were less good at slowing that ball down, and Saracens getting quick ball. And Saracens, as I say, really dominated that from the box kicking. Munster really used the restarts to get territory, and hence you saw them down 12-9 at half time. In the second half, though, Saracens came out and really dominated play. Now, I switched over, to be honest with you, to watch the end of Stormers Brumbies, which was looking a lot closer than I was expecting. So I missed the first couple of minutes, but had to rewound and watched it. But 22 phases for Saracens before they went over and scored that try. And basically, they strangled the game from pretty much there on in. Really dominated that second half. Interesting them talking to Pat Sanders about what the difference had been, and he was saying they'd kicked too much in that first half, and that they really wanted to increase their urgency and check a few things around the blind side. But that was the main thing, was that they kicked too much in that first half, and in the second half they really were kicking to. So they really were going through the phases. We had that 22 phases for the try. We had another 15 phases before Saracens passed out on the full soon after that. A couple of a scrum penalty, another penalty at the breakdown. Suddenly it's 25-9, and really that scoreboard pressure came on from about 45 minutes onwards when they got that try plus a penalty. Suddenly at 22-9, you're talking of being a 2-score lead, and or going beyond sort of 2-score leads, and it really becomes a lot of scoreboard pressure, which meant that Munster had to start going for the corner and things like that, rather than kicking threes and patiently working their way through this. They did manage to they managed to get some pressure on just before the hour mark, which got them sort of held up in a maul just short of the try line. Turned over the ball, but Saracens got the scrum, but Munster did very well to disrupt it. Murray got it out, and he got spun wide, and they went over in the corner. But then after that, Saracens really grounded out. They had got a Farrell even missed a penalty, but Billy Vunipola bashed over after both Williams and Strettle had some mazy runs through the Munster defence to set that up. And at 32-16, with only 9 minutes to go, you got to say it was all over. I mean, Saracens had a stranglehold on this game all the way through that second half. Even when they lost a player on, what was it, 76 minutes for flipping a player over at the ruck. A bit unlucky to see what he would do. Normally would have worked if someone else wasn't doing the same thing on the other side. So nothing sort of malicious in there. But yep, quite rightly a yellow card for number 18, and I've gone blank as to which one that was. It wasn't Cock, it was Barrington. That's right, the other replacement prop who got sent to the bin for that one. Apparently his first yellow card ever at this kind of level. 28 kicks from Saracens, 25 from Munster. So a lot of that was in that first half. So it looks like a high kicking game. The second half didn't have the same amount by any stretch. So Saracens on the top the whole way through this game. 58% possession in both the first half and the second half. And in the 60s for territory in both as well. So not only were they had the ball more, but they were forcing Munster to play in areas of pitch they didn't want to. Clean breaks are up, offloads are up, turnovers 8 to 12, just slightly down. Everything they did was just that little bit better than Munster doing it. Perfect set pieces from both sides. And the tackling again, 90% by Saracens, 88% by Munster. Again, as I say, each of these little things were just slightly better by Saracens than Munster, and that meant they dominated the game. Again, say on penalties conceded 8 and 10, everything was just slightly their side. And it's those margins that make the big difference in these kind of levels and at these kind of games. The intensity in this game was very high. I tweeted to Ben from the Maul Newsletter podcast, who likes a good 9-6 game, that the first half was exactly his style of game, and it was. It was very good. So, Paul, just wondering, what do you think Vunipola deserved another match on his performance, or is it a tactic to get him to interview on TV? If not, who would you have given man of the match to? Billy Vunipola, clearly is somebody who has been the centre of the spotlight today. I thought it was a tad. Initially, I thought it was a bit tad, sort of just deliberately being controversial to give it to him. But 21 carries, he got through a stack of work there. I perhaps would have looked at somebody like, I thought Alex Good had a good game, particularly in that first half. He was playing very well in there. So, yeah, Billy Vunipola had a decent game, definitely in the conversation, but you do feel there's slightly an element of, hey, let's keep this. Let's get someone who's in the spotlight on the telly. He was part of that pack that did get in that second half, was making sure they were getting over the gain line, and was able to keep those series of possessions going. As I say, that 22 possessions, etc. So there was some very good play by them. Don't get me wrong. Matt O'Grady, Conor Murray is completely off the boil at the minute. Definitely lost the kicking battle in that first half. I've got to say, it did cause trouble for. Typically scrum halfish around the back of scrums and at the breakdown. But I get your point. Yeah, he lost the battle of the scrum halves today to Ben Spencer in that first half in particular, which obviously set the tone for things going forwards. So Billy Vunipola got through a lot of carries. Michael Rhodes did as well, but you got to look actually that. For metres gained, Liam Williams got through 12 carries, Alex Goose 17 carries for 60 metres, David Strettle got through a few as well. They were happy to spin it wide on occasion in that second half, which led to Munster obviously having to get through some tackling out wide, where Conway in particular made 3 tackles, missed 4. Successfully completed 3 tackles, missed 4. Didn't have a particularly good night tackling out there. It was good on the high ball, or better than Sweetenham, but who had a much better day tackling. But yeah, I'm going to say that definitely made some ground out there occasionally. But it was a massive shift by that Munster pack. That Munster pack had to go through a hell of a lot of work in this game. Every single one of them got through more than 10 tackles. with Stander topping it with 19. Omani had 17. Kulkoni also had 17 as well. So big shifts by that pack. Murray also got through 10 tackles, and Scannell got through 12 in the back. So you got to say lots of big shifts by that Munster pack, and it just shows you where Saracens spent a lot of time attacking in that second half, carrying that up. And where the carries were, you had, Itoji got through. I mentioned that, Vunipola, Rhodes, Itoji all got through lots of carries, as did Mako Vunipola. George got through 9, Kruis 9. All of them were having a go at that piece, and that's where, if they kept getting that gain line, that's where Saracens won this one. Defensively, Mako got through a lot of tackles as well. Rhodes had a big game. Ray slightly less so. Itoji 17 tackles topped it for the for Saracens. On the discipline side of things, Itoji also gave up three penalties. He's a guy that plays on that edge, or beyond that edge. You got to say, and sometimes he's going to get pinged for it. Sometimes he's not. A bit like Omani as well, but he did it. He generally does it a bit better, and he gave up one penalty today, and that one was early on. So congratulations to Saracens. As I say, they were just that bit better at everywhere. They're the only team so far to have won every game in this tournament. They clearly have prioritised this tournament over the Premiership, as they've uncharacteristically lost games in the Premiership. They know they can do that because as long as you're in the top two, it only matters when you get to the playoffs. In Europe, they've been making sure they get that home seeding, get themselves as high up as they can, and really have pushed that through. And you've got to say, they've done it extremely well. So will it be Leinster or Toulouse that join them? We will find that out tomorrow. I'll be getting up at 2 o'clock again in the morning to watch that one. I've got Veronique joining me for post-match reaction to that game, which we'll discuss. So do join us for that one. So Billy Vunipola was man of the match. That was also his 100th game for Saracens. I think there was an element of keeping him in the press, but I say he did have a good game. I would probably have gone for something like, I thought Good had a very, very good game, particularly. Just a quick sort of comment about the crowd. Obviously, not the biggest crowd there in Coventry. Personally, I think that the top seeds should be allowed to play at home if they have a big enough ground of, say, 15,000 or something, or maybe up that to 20,000 in future. But to me, trying to sell tickets, or trying to get both sets of fans to be travelling with just a couple of weeks' notice means that trying to find airfares, hotels, train tickets, all of that kind of stuff can be prohibitively expensive because you have to buy them at the last minute. So I think at least the home fans should be in their own town. And let's be honest, there are plenty of venues in London that are big enough for this kind of game, especially when they have 15,000 turn up. So I think Saracens should have been allowed to have this one at home if they could put the extra seat stands in to make it up to 15,000. And I think we'd have a better crowd and probably a bit of a better atmosphere as well. Because I say they kind of got lost in what is a very good stadium, but they need more people in it to really get it going. So there we go. My thoughts on that. I know that the rules say that Saracens can't play at home. I'm just saying that's how I think the rules are wrong. By the way, if someone's questioning why, to come back and tell me why they played there, I know that it's at a neutral venue in the home city, in the home country. I don't think it should be closer to where the teams are based. So thank you very much for dialing in and watching. It's been a pleasure, but it is early and I'm off to bed now. I'll be back up, as I say, for the Leinster versus Toulouse one. Should be another cracking game. This one really was the intensity was all there. It wasn't the sort of the flash stuff that I get used to watching Super Rugby, but boy, was the intensity and was the contest was certainly in that game. So really enjoyed it. Looking forward to Leinster versus Toulouse tomorrow night, Join me then. If you're watching a recording, you'll have things like a place up there to subscribe, or you can subscribe down below to the channel. Down there is how you get to Patreon. This is a link in the notes below to support the channel, so I can bring you all this free stuff. And over there with 2 videos at the artificial intelligence here at YouTube, so you'll enjoy. So why don't you give those a click as well.